Hi guys, my name is Mariah Cleary. I am from Tompkinsville, Kentucky, super small town, and I'm currently a D1 at the University of Kentucky College of Dentistry, so that's a little bit of a change for me, bigger city life, but anyways, I went to undergrad at Western Kentucky University just down the road in Bowling Green, and I actually majored in biology there with a minor in chemistry. While I was there, I volunteered with remote area medical RAM clinics, and they really made a difference and impact on my journey as, being a pre-dental student and getting to go and assist dentists and go across Kentucky and even parts of Tennessee and other areas, and just getting to help people and give them free medical care, especially dental, can be really expensive. So that was a big impact for me. Loved volunteering with RAM clinics, always love helping out when I can. I also helped out with the American Red Cross and got to host my own blood drive, so that was really amazing. Helping out with them. I guess switch it up a little more about me personally. I have 2 French Bulldogs. They're my children. They go with me to Lexington, so they're up there with me. I come home and they're so excited to see me, so it's a nice little breakaway. I guess I also love traveling, so that's always fun. Love trying new foods and trying out new things with my friends and family, so that's just a little bit about me. So I get this question a lot. Why dentistry? Why do you want to be a dentist? Why? So I guess for me, were a lot of things that led me to dentistry, a lot of experiences and kind of putting the pieces together on my own, why I want to be a dentist. So it definitely started when I was young. I wanted to work in healthcare. I knew that from a very young age. And then in middle school, when I began working with my aunt, who's a dentist, I was like, I really like this. I like how personable the career is, how you get to form those relationships with your patients and really help them in a unique way, and make a difference on their lives. And I always thought that was just amazing. So I worked with my aunt for a couple years. I was like, I really enjoyed this. And then as I got older in high school, I worked at a restaurant as a waitress and manager. And I think that position gave me a lot of insight of working with the public. You're one-on-one with them, and I loved forming those relationships with them, but I also loved serving them and feeling like I was, making a difference, even if it was just smiling while I was talking to them. And, I also think the manager portion of that job gave me I was only 17 when I became a manager, so that was a lot of responsibility on me, and I took it full force. I was like, I love this. I love, managing it. I love working with the people and making sure they're taken care of, So that was a big step for me and helped me grow as a person, become more responsible, learn the business side of things more so. And then as I transitioned into college, I began volunteering with RAM clinics, which are remote area medical. And they go to a lot of rural counties, underserved counties in the U.S. And I fell in love with dentistry there for sure. Being able to assist and help those people, and all the gratitude they showed to us, just the volunteers and the dentists, and how we were really making a difference in their lives, That made a difference in my life as well. It proved to me that that's what I wanted to do, and showed me how much passion I even had. I didn't even realize how passionate I was until I would go to a RAM clinic at 4 in the morning and stay until 5 in the afternoon and, help as many people as we could. And it just really made a difference on me and my journey to becoming a dentist. You know, I loved that. I loved being able to help people, even if it was just assisting or running to get supplies. You know, I was there and I was helping them. So all those little things I feel like really put all the puzzle pieces together for me, and I was like, it's so clear. I want to be a dentist. I want to be able to help people. I love forming those relationships. I want to be the person, you know, that helps them leave with a confident smile and make a difference on their life. So that's kind of my why. Everyone's most dreadful, I feel like, thing, you know, it's a standardized test. It's a little nerve-wracking. I personally was so nervous. I've never been a great standardized test taker, so I was like, I just do not know how this is gonna go. And I mean, you're working so hard to get to be a dentist, and it puts a lot of pressure on that test. So for me, I used DAT boot camp. As far as, so like I applied in 2020. I took my first DAT in June 30th of 2020, and then I ended up I decided to retake the exam. So you have to wait 90 days to retake it. So I took it exactly 90 days after my first test, because for me, I didn't want to lose the opportunity to get in my first time. I really wanted to put it all out there, and if I had to, you know, work another 90 days on studying for this test, that's something I wanted to do. So I used DAT bootcamp both times. I did change completely how I studied from the first time to the second time, and it made the world of a difference. It's all about mindset, I believe. And it's a dreadful test. It's something you're all in it together. You all dread it, you know, everyone wants to do good. So I think if you go into it like, I've got to do good, one, I know I can do this. I've made it this far in my pre-dental journey. Like, I know I can do this. This is a test, and it will not define me as a student. And it's really hard not to get in your head about it. I was nervous. I was overwhelmed. I felt like that I was a little bit too average to be able to do good, to be able to succeed with that test. But, you know, you're eventually going to get there. If you work and you keep pushing hard, you are going to get there. There is nothing that can stop you if you know you can do it. So I guess the top 3 tips I would give: make a schedule. That was my biggest thing. I made a schedule and I stuck to it. You know, life happens and things don't always go the way you want, but try your best to stick to it. Even having the schedule is a big, you know, commitment. So try to stick to it. Do your best. Learn how you study. So that was a big thing for me. The first time I took the test, I studied like everyone else. I felt like how they studied, or like people would give me tips and I used those to study, but I didn't study how I knew I would learn best. So that's my second tip. Always study and learn how you learn. Don't use other people's tips, but don't use those as your own. You know how you study. You've made it this far. You can figure that out. And don't compare yourself to anyone else in the journey, you know. Everyone in my dental school class came in with completely different stories. You have your own, whether you think you're just another average student or you're just, you know, like everyone else or whatever. You have your own story. You need to tell it as your own story, and you need to own it, you know. Things are going to happen. I did not plan on taking my test twice back to back. I would have loved to have just taken it once, but looking back on that part of my life, I'm so glad that I had to take the DAT twice. I believe that helped me, you know. I don't think I would have appreciated and been proud of myself like I was the second time I got that test score back. You know, I was so proud that I had made it through. I did it. I got the score I wanted. And the first time I do not believe I would have appreciated that score had I got that on my first DAT. So everything happens for a reason. Just breathe. Everything's going to be okay. And you'll be just fine. So that's my advice for the DAT. For me in particular, I didn't know if my application was going to be super attractive to the admissions committee. You know, you're always nervous about that when applying to schools like this. And so I definitely took advantage of a lot of impressions days or pre-dental days, you know, that the schools would put on. I took full advantage anytime I could go and participate in those events. I would definitely go, and that would be my advice. Definitely go and do that. So as far as setting me apart, I knew that my GPA was probably my weak spot. It wasn't low, but it was average, you know. So if I had an average GPA, I needed to bring my application up and prove myself in other aspects. So that would be my advice. Find if you're weak in shadowing, make sure a lot of your other application looks really good and really attractive, you know. Obviously GPA is important, shadowing is important. I had a lot of shadowing hours, but I wanted to make up for the fact, I might not be a straight A student, but I'm passionate about this. I spent this many hours in shadowing, and then also I would say volunteering. I spent countless hours volunteering with different clubs and organizations. Find something you love and volunteer. You know, it doesn't have to be big, fancy, whatever, but definitely find what you're passionate about and volunteer with that organization. Working, I had my work experience, so although I felt like I could be average within my GPA or maybe even my DAT score, I feel like bringing up my application and trying to build it up in other aspects was very important to me. Like, I wanted to, you know, make up for it somewhere. I wanted to prove to them this is what I wanted, prove to the admissions committee. So that's my advice. Find out where your weak spots are and try to make up for it somewhere else. And that just shows that you care and this is something you're passionate about. So. Okay, so as far as interviews, so fun. Once you get an interview, I felt like a lot of my stress I could breathe, because you know the school wants to meet you. They want to see the person they read about on paper. So when I interviewed with UK, it was all of my interviews were over Zoom because of COVID and the pandemic going on. So I didn't love talking through Zoom because I like to be in person and, you know, talk, and they might be changing that for some schools, so you might be in person now. But I interviewed at several schools, I believe, like U of L, UK, of course, Indiana, University of Indiana, and Mosto as well. I think that's all. But they all had kind of different interview styles. UK had an MMI at the time, which I believe they're changing that now. But the MMI consisted of 7 interviewers. You had 10 minutes with each interviewer, and you were given a scenario. And I was kind of nervous about the scenario-based questions because I didn't want to give a wrong answer. But something I learned about that, doesn't matter necessarily, not always, the answer you give. It's just whatever answer you give the admissions committee, you need to be able to follow that up as why. Why was that your answer, you know? And I found just explaining yourself and not just answering the question, but also allowing them to see a piece of who you are. So if you were answering a question, you don't want to just say, no, I don't feel like that's right, but explain yourself so that they know, they can get a little piece of who you are as a person. And so then I had some other interviews that were just one-on-one with maybe 1 or 2 faculty members of the school. But as far as that, we had a student panel for most schools that I interviewed at, like the night before, and then the interview was most of the day, maybe like they go through the tour and all that. So the interview itself probably lasts like 30 minutes per school, about average. So I used iPrep Dental for my prep, and I've loved it. Honestly, I would recommend it to anyone. So that's iPrepDental.com, I believe. You can search it on Google and it'll pop right up. So that's a great resource. Or just looking up, making sure you know what kind of style interview your school that you receive an interview at is doing. That way you're prepared. Just become prepared and be yourself. And that's all you can do. So just be yourself. Obviously practice, use any resources you have, video yourself and listen back, and even show your friends and family, someone that's actually going to critique you, not be too biased though, and give you tips on interviews, especially if you've never been in an interview type environment or situation, I guess. Definitely practice, but you don't want to sound rehearsed. You want to be prepared for any question they might ask you, but you also don't want to sound like you're a robot. You want to sound like a real person, And it's also okay to, after they ask you a question, take a second to think about your answer. A lot of schools even like that because you don't just come out and blurt something out that you wish you hadn't said or wish you had worded it better. Think about what you're going to say. As far as my interviews, I always felt really good about them. Sometimes there might have been things I wish I would have said that differently, or I wish I could have worded that better, but you're always going to feel like that. Just feel confident in you, and you've made it this far. Now they're seeing if you're just the same person that they've seen on paper. So they're just validating that. And if they love you, then great. If not, you'll find the school that's meant for you. And interviews tell you a lot, so really read into them as well. Don't just worry about impressing them. If you're not comfortable with the faculty or the people that are interviewing you, or they don't make you feel at home, that's definitely a big flag, a red flag for me. One of the schools I really liked, I didn't love their interview, so that kind of turns you away, but I ended up where I'm meant to be. So just be yourself, breathe, don't get too nervous, and everything's gonna be okay. Why UK? For me, I chose UK for a lot of reasons. They were the first school to show interest in me. I applied to a lot of schools, and after I took my first DAT and I was studying to take my second DAT, they were the only school that reached out and said that they were waiting for my scores. They wanted to see my next scores. They were interested in me. So that made me feel really good. It made me feel wanted, or, that they were interested in me. And that gave me the passion to keep pushing forward. They would have a smaller class size, so I was very interested in that. I'm from a small town, so that I liked the small town vibe, I guess you could say. And I always thought Lexington was a beautiful city. We visited there a couple times, growing up, and it was always so pretty, and everyone always is so nice every time I go there. And then, of course, when I would tour at UK, I met several students, faculty, and they were always just so warm and welcoming to me. So I felt at home already, even though I hadn't, got accepted or whatever. But they were also the first school to send me an interview, so I was really excited about that. I was excited to have my interview and, get to show them who I was as a person. I like that in your second year you start seeing patients. That's important, You're doing this for the rest of your life. I love how UK incorporates didactic courses within clinic courses or clinic classes. And, even as a first year, I've already been we've already been in the clinic, practicing and preparing ourselves. I feel like we're actually like taking steps closer to get to see our own patients. So that's very exciting. So transitioning from undergrad or just a pre-dental student in general to being a dental student, it was a lot. Well, I feel like UK did a great job. Because when we started in August, it was kind of slow. They were easing us into it. The teachers were kind of getting to know us, and we didn't have a whole lot of tests until maybe September of our first year. So I really do feel like they did. Dental school's hard. I'm not going to sit here and tell you it's easy. It's not easy, but I feel like they did a great job as like walking with us, tiptoeing into the water, I guess you could say, and getting ready for those tests and preparing us with all the things we need to know for them. And as far as curriculum, there is a lot. We have about 9 to 11 classes, I believe, in a semester. But UK they have a great guy that works on scheduling, and he really tries to not overwhelm us. Obviously, there are weeks that we have 2-3 tests maybe sometimes. So it is hard. It really is. But, I feel like they do a good job of not trying to overwhelm us more than we have to be overwhelmed. And I guess within my first year, the hardest month of my first semester was October. So it didn't get really bad until probably October, which, thank goodness, it gave you time to get settled and, all ready for all the hecticness that you're about to endure. And I guess one of the great things about dental school is you're all in it together. For me, I have 64 other people that are going through the same thing. We're just a big support system. I have my best friends. I've met my best friends, So we're all in it together. And that's a great thing to know, you're not struggling just by yourself. Everyone can struggle together, and we all have each other's back. So we're just a big family. And that's something I really love about UK. So right now I'm on spring break, so it's very nice to have a little break away from classes, but each semester has about 10 to 11 classes. And within the first semester, so our schedule was kind of like we had class from Monday and Fridays were about 10 to 5. And then Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays were like 8 to 5. So it wasn't too bad starting out, but some days you get out early, so that's really nice, or you get done with your clinic work or your waxing or, your operative class, and you get to leave and go home, but then you have to study, right? So it is hard because we don't have like built-in study time, so you do have to go home a lot of times and study. But once you're in that routine, once you're just thrown in it, you gotta do it. You kind of just adapt, and you're like, okay, you gotta take this test in a few days, study for it, and then start studying for another one. But so it's not terrible, but you just get used to it. So right now we are in anatomy and physiology. I'm in my second semester, anatomy and physiology. We have our second operative class, so we're drilling. And then we have our occlusion and articulation class, so we're mounting, pouring casts, taking impressions, things like that. We have perio right now. We just finished up a radiology course that we'll take a practical in a few weeks. And we're in our oral diagnosis class, so we're learning about urgent care a little bit and how to take patient information and medical histories. So you're learning a lot of stuff, but a lot of the classes kind of coincide with each other. They overlap, You learn something in one class, but then in a few months you're going to learn it again in another. So it's kind of a lot of repeat little bit, which is great because you're actually absorbing the material and you're like, oh yes, I remember that from that one class. But in our first semester, we had a lot of great classes that taught us so much, like cardiology, our first operative, dental anatomy. We had biochem, and then a lot of other classes, and they all just kind of flow in together. They help you, and the faculty and staff are great. Sometimes we have to go in on the weekends. Not a lot. I don't personally go in a lot on the weekends in practice. But if I have a practical, on a Monday, I might go in on a Sunday afternoon. They have tutoring for practicals, so that's awesome. Upperclassmen come in, D2s and D3s will help you with your hand skills or whatever you need. They're just really great to help, and schedule isn't too bad, so you just kind of get used to it, all the hectic classes and studying in the afternoon, but trying to make time for things that you want to do is very important too, and getting a little break every now and then. So what makes me excited about going to school? I guess when we're learning new stuff, like, I know that's kind of cliche, but we're constantly learning new things about something I'm going to be doing for the rest of my life. So that's very exciting to me. I love doing it with my friends. I've made so many friends, some of my best friends in dental school, and we're in it together, and I love seeing them, and we help each other out. We study together, It's so nice to have that support group, and it makes me excited to go to school and see them, and we get to learn together. And I love going to the clinic and doing activities, or, I love getting I love hands-on stuff. So the first time we took impressions was really fun and cool on each other. And then, for example, next semester we're going to learn how to give the anesthesia, so that's really awesome. We're going to have stab lab, I don't know, I'm just excited about a lot of things coming up, and I'm excited to go to school and see my friends, and also like go to operative class, or you're getting one step closer to like seeing patients, and that's really exciting for me. Like, I can't wait for that. Can't wait to have my first patient. But yeah. So the biggest piece of advice I would give pre-dental students, so definitely, like, if you don't take anything away from this, I would start early. Start as early as you can on things. It's never too early. You can start shadowing, you can start working, get the experience, and definitely figure out if this is what you want to do. If this is what you want to do for the rest of your life, you have to know that, right? So figure that out. You want to do it, great. Get a calendar. That was my biggest thing while I was studying for the DAT, or like shadowing or any of that. Get a calendar. Start scheduling when you're going to shadow. Start scheduling when you're going to start studying. For the DAT, I started studying in May and ended up having to study until September when I took my second test. But if I didn't write all that down, I wouldn't have had a plan. So definitely get a plan. Plan when you're going to shadow. Call dentist offices. Ask if you can shadow. Ask if they need a part-time anything, Just getting the experience and having that experience was so nice, because if this is something you want to do, you got to work for it. You can't just sit around and hope someone's going to call you. No one's going to call you and say, you want to come shadow? You have to call places, talk to people, ask around. It's like, dentists really do want you to come in, and they're excited to see you. They're excited to have shadowers, a lot of them, Find a good mentor, a good dentist that you can talk to about school. Make sure you're on the right track. Ask them where they went. Figure out as many questions as you can. Document all your experiences. So I had an Excel sheet that I kept up with all the hours that I shadowed, along with the calendar, just an extra backup in case you miss some days or you don't have your calendar. You have or vice versa, you know, keep up with that. I would say start documenting experiences that you have. Start documenting anything that makes an impact on your dental journey, because I used a lot of those experiences within my personal statement, and that helps so much to, you know, go back and look. You can't remember everything that you're doing when you're taking undergrad classes, you're shadowing, you're trying to volunteer. You can't remember every little thing, so write it down. Write down any experience that stands out in your mind. That's very important, especially when you start working on your personal statements. Also surround yourself, you know, with positive people. I had a great support group, my family, my friends. If they're not going to support you, it's going to be really hard to get there. Like, you need that support. Friends, family, whoever, a mentor. Somebody that's going to be like, you can do this, and remind you of that. You need to remind yourself, but also have someone that you can call when you're having a rough day or whatever, you know. You want to feel like you trust those people and they're going to help you get there as well. Enjoy the process as much as possible. I know that's hard sometimes when it's overwhelming. You have so many different things. But enjoy the process, you know. Work hard. Don't give up. And yeah, you might not feel like your application stands out or you're just any other student, but you're not. You have your own story and you need to tell it as that. Tell it as it's the most different and most unique story ever, because it is. Everyone has their own story and they're all unique. So just stand by that. Be confident in yourself and your abilities, because if you've made it this far, chances are you're going to make it a lot farther. And I had struggled with that a lot. I didn't know if I could do this, if I could get here, and now I'm here, and it's so overwhelming sometimes because I can't believe I'm even here. So if I can do it, I know all of you watching can, because if you're watching this video, you're definitely interested. So just believe in yourself and support your friends, your other pre-dental friends. Find people that support you, and you're gonna do great. You got this. So just stick with it. It's not gonna be perfect, but no one ever said it was gonna be easy. So just keep working for it. Bye, guys.